All right, gang, it is I, Carlton Flowers, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And we need to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, just checking to see if the gain is set correctly. We need to talk Bitcoin today, and I want to share with you some new analysis that I just kind of came up with. And this will be a completely unrehearsed video. This is just me talking, having coffee, and sharing with you what I see. And I want to share somewhat of a conspiracy theory with you also, because I think that I've been fooled, and I'll tell you why. We'll break down the 1-day chart so I can show you my new technical analysis, and then we'll look at the 4-hour, and then I'm going to show you my conspiracy-ish theory of what I think is going on, and I think you're going to find it interesting. So let's get rid of my handsome face, and here we are on the 1-day chart. And as you can see on this chart, I have a descending parallel trading channel that I kind of just saw this finally the other day. It just popped out in front of me, and it is formed by taking two of these bottoms, and then the tops really don't match, but they coincide with a critical level that everybody is looking at, which is roughly 50,000. And I thought, well, this is interesting that this parallel channel would match up with where a lot of people are saying that they would believe Bitcoin would take off, like a breakaway point, which is around 50,000. Now, this could come down lower. It really could. And it wouldn't make a difference. If it touched here, we still have the same thing, which is a rejection. And we still have this top support resistance area that we did bounce through. We did not bounce through, actually. We bounced around and then got rejected right at the top of this parallelogram here. That's not a parallelogram. What am I thinking? Good Lord. Rectangle. So on the 1-day chart, we only wicked above this. On the 4-hour, I believe it'll poke through a little bit, but the full-bodied candles are within the top, within the roof of the support resistance zone. This was the last one that we're looking at. So I thought that it was very interesting that we did get rejected there. What I want to point out on this chart is a couple of things. First of all, let's just start with the candles. We have two candles that pretty much will be closing. This one's not closed yet, but two red candles closed, while the stochastic is still looking bullish. You know, we had this crossover here, a bullish crossover in both the fast and the slow oscillators, which the blue is the %K, the orangish red is the %D. They're still kind of parallel, not quite divergent, but pointing upwards while the candles are coming down. So these are going to get snatched down, and we're going to get another crossover. And the MACD is hinting at an impending crossover, which this one lagging the stochastic. It was probably this first little bit of the dip that started to pull down the fast line on the MACD. We also notice on the MACD that we are approaching the zero line with the histogram, which says to me that we do have downward momentum. And so the next question will be, where does it stop? And so for right now, I think the highest probable place that we could stop is here in this second higher middle support resistance zone that is at 43,000. My eyes are on 43,000. I don't see much of a chance personally of 37 or going back down to the 30. Anything can happen. A black swan event can happen, and it can tank the market and pull that price down. But if everything is, all things being equal, if we don't have any crazy events on the horizon, 43,000 is where I start to accumulate my alts again. And I'll explain why once we get through this little part. When I get to the conspiracy part, it will make it clear to you why that is the level that I'm going to start accumulating again. All right, so the other point that I wanted to make on the big chart, what was it actually? Well, we have the big volume node that it's right there at the top of the channel. So we made it to that, and now we're slipping down. And if we get into the slip zone here, we could bounce here, or there could be enough momentum to take us down to where the 50 period moving average is right here. You see that orange line? That's the 50. But it's coming up. It's being pulled up by the action that we had on this green candle. So by the time price gets down to here, the 50 moving average might already be up within this zone that is around the 41 to 43, this box that I'm thinking that we're going to bounce out of. And then, of course, we got this big node down here. Let's see if we can maybe scroll out a little bit and zoom in on just the recent action. The point of control would be at 37 something. And then there is a big spike right there that is within the second to the bottom popular support resistance zone. And then here's the bottom one where we got that big node sticking out at 33. That's at the top of that one. So those are the choices for me, that this is the bounce and support point. Most likely this one is next after that, actually the 50, then this one, and then last but not least would be a movement like that. That's just my opinion and not financial advice. I'm just talking about what I see. And so don't mistake me for someone that is looking to gain a reputation for getting all the right calls, because I'm not. And you really need to be careful and stop watching people because you think that they're going to give you accurate predictions where you can make money. You need to quit that. Seriously, that is the biggest mistake that you can make in trading, is depending or believing that someone can predict Bitcoin's movements. If it was possible to do that, that someone should be a billionaire. We'll just leave it at that. All right, now, what other point was I going to make on the 1 day? Let's jump to the 4 hour and then come back to the 1 day with my conspiracy theory, so to say. So on the 4 hour, we're creeping up a little bit. We got the stochastic that looks like it's curling up. The fast %K, the blue line, is looking like it wants to cross over, but it can like touch and go and continue going south. We also notice down here on the MACD that we definitely have a downward momentum while price is moving up. That, my friends, is what you call a divergence. Always watch out for that. This doesn't make any sense to me. And so when you get to the end of these divergences, something big usually happens. And that could be a break to the positive or a break to the negative. And there's arguments for both ways. I tend to think when we have this going on, we're only going to exacerbate the dip. Okay, so when this divergence carries on that long, it just makes this drop bigger than what it would have been. That's just my opinion. It's just what I notice from my own observation. All right. So based on the stochastic dips, the last dip that brought us this here, which touched down on the 50 EMA. So this next one, it might touch down on the 50 EMA. And if that happens at 43, I'm ready to roll right there. That's where I'm going to start buying all my alts. Now let's get into why I'm doing that. So in the short term, I'm just hoping that this dip continues down to 43. And if I'm wrong about this, I still have a contingency plan. It doesn't mean that I'm going to get wrecked because the price goes lower. So let's just zoom this in here. And now we're going to talk conspiracy theory. Who remembers during the time that this dip was going on, that everyone was talking about Bitcoin possibly going down to 30K and also 20K and even 14K. How many people remember that? We had a lot of folks out there who were talking about these three numbers. And because of that, once we got to this true bottom, which I believe this is it, that's the bottom right there, folks. When we just dipped below 30, that was it. But due to all of the talk and the hype that was going on about the 20 and the 14K, I thought that we would go further down south, which would represent my entry point to jump in back to all of my alts. Now, if you scroll way back in my previous videos, I did have a scenario where I said, when we get to the base of this downtrending line, that we could rip to 50 and then take the true capitulation. And that's still a possibility. But I don't think this last move is going to be big. I think it's going to look something like this. And that's just my thought. Again, I could be wrong. It is still possible that what I said a month ago could turn out happening, where we have the biggest dip right there, which if we did stay within the confines of this downward trending trading channel, 23,000 would be where we would end up. Isn't that magical? There's 23K right about there. That's where this would end. When you have these parallel trading channels, I don't get confident until we break. Now, where would the break be for this one? The breakout point would be right there. If we can break there, which that would be logically where it would just about, hit it, then that's where it's time to prove that we have that we're ready to roll. If we break the top of this channel, then the next thing would be take out this previous high and take out the all-time high. Then it's clear skies, and look out, because we're going to be rocking and rolling to 100,000 or more. All right. Now, anyway, back to the conspiracy. So while all of the talk was going on about we're dropping down to 20K, I missed the bottom. And I think that this was done on purpose. Why? Because there was I noticed a ton of institutional buying going on in this zone. And a lot of people were talking about it. Volume started going up like crazy. And I'm like, why are people buying now? Because we're supposed to dip to 20. Well, what do you think would benefit the big shots, the whales and the institutional buyers the most? To fool us into thinking that we're going to drop to 20K, so we're all sleeping at the wheel. And then when we hit the true bottom before they're ready to run it up, that they load up like crazy, and then magically this happens. Isn't that interesting? Do you think that's a coincidence? I don't. Now, I'm not going to say I'm a full-blown conspiracy theorist, but there are people who cheat in this world, and we know that markets are manipulated, and the cryptocurrency market is small enough that it is very easy to be manipulated by these institutions, the market manipulators, the whales, whoever it is behind the scenes. I don't know exactly who they are, but it's easy to manipulate this market. So my conspiracy theory, which is really not a conspiracy theory, because this is a very viable story, was that all along they knew it wasn't going to go to 20, but they would fool us into thinking we're going down here, knowing it was going to stop here. So then they load up while nobody else is, and then the price runs up. Now, if we get a dip here, it's profit taking. But they got their position secured, so before we do this, they're going to have maximum profits. No institutional investor or whale who's looking to make money, especially these big hedge funds and, the folks that are buying all of these positions to slap into their big, huge portfolios so they can sell their shares in their whatever funds. None of those folks want us to know where the bottom is, because they have to make maximum profits for their customers, okay? So it would behoove them to fool us into thinking that this is a bottom, while we or fool us into thinking that this wasn't the bottom, while they would know it is, so that they can grab up the majority of these positions and put them in their little hedge funds and make maximum profits for their investor base. I mean, it just makes sense. So it's a chess game. You do have to have head fakes. You do have to use mind tricks. Manipulation is a big part of this. So congratulations to all of you rich fat cat institutional investors that fooled me into thinking that this was not the bottom. You got me. And now, I'm holding a lot of my micros, but I sold off all of my popular stuff on Coinbase that I've watched several of them move up 10, 15, 20%. So the reason why I will start to jump back in if we hit 43K is this. Fool me once, shame on, what is it? Okay, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I think it's how it goes. In other words, I'm not going to be stupid twice. So once we get to roughly 43 at this level right there, that's where I'm going to start buying. If price goes down, I'll DCA all the way to whatever the bottom is. And that way, the goal will be that I end up with an average somewhere in here across all of my positions. That I'm good with. Then when the market blows up from that average price, I'm going to be going straight to the bank and making profits. So this starts the game with the DCA game. And if this is the bottom, I'm covered. If it shoots up, if it's not, I DCA always to the bottom of the box. So it's all about strategy, and that's my strategy. That's my thoughts. What do you think about the manipulation, about my conspiracy-ish theory? Post it in the comments. Please share your thoughts. Tell me if you think 43 is going to be the bottom. I think 43 is going to be the bottom. That's what I'm going to have to go with. And again, that's my guess. That's not my prediction. And I'm definitely not trying to make a name for myself to say that I can get it right and other people can't, because nobody's got a dadgum crystal ball. All right, that's all I got. Let's chop it up. We'll see you next time.